Hey guys, what's happening? So we're continuing with more of Jonathan Hickman's Ultimate Spider-Man. So if you're enjoying these videos, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so for this one we come back in June, where at this point Peter's come home after a night of fighting crime to have breakfast with his family. But when he sits at the table, everybody's looking at him like, man, like, Dad, what happened to your face? Cause he just sits at the table all lumped up like it's whatever. But when MJ and the kids bring it up, Peter tries to downplay it like, oh, you know how clumsy I can be sometimes. And when his son Richard asked Peter to be more specific about it, he really doesn't have any kind of alibi to just throw out there to keep MJ and Richard from knowing that he's a superhero now. But that hasn't been the case for his daughter May, because for the past 4 months, she's known. And it's not even so much the case where he wanted to tell her first, but it was like she had already seen the pictures in the paper, and one night when Peter came home, she caught him in the suit. So ever since, he told her that it would be just their little secret, to where eventually May even went as far as to inspire the new design, with the iconic red and blue colors. But on this morning, with Richard calling out his dad because it doesn't make any sense how you can get that roughed up working at the Bugle, Richard continues to ask questions. And then May figures out Dad got roughed up while being a superhero. And she really just blurts it out, though she didn't mean to expose his secret to Richard and MJ. And she's so upset afterwards, it's adorable. Because on one hand, she didn't mean to tell, though at the same time, she's scared for her dad's safety. So she's apologizing and crying and trying to catch her breath all at the same time. But now that MJ and Richard know, there's so many more questions that they have. And MJ wants to start with how exactly Peter got that black eye. So this takes us over to story time with what happened at the Fisk Tower last night. Cause it was there when Peter and Harry were on the stakeout, waiting for Wilson Fisk to make his way in so they can drop in on him and get some answers. But just before they went in, Harry asked Peter like, you ready? And Peter was like, I guess. So Harry's like, what do you mean, I guess? This the guy behind the guy. We need him to get to them. So Peter admits that he's never broken into anyone's house before, let alone broken the law, any law. And it's funny how this conversation plays out, because it's kind of like they probably should have talked about more of this earlier, because now that it's go time, they quickly realize they're missing some of the basics. Like for example, Harry's like, hey, it's a necessary evil, Peter. And right there, Peter's like, man, don't say my name. Out here shouting out my government from the rooftops. So right there he tells Harry they should use code names. And Harry's like, but we don't have code names. And Peter's like, yeah, we do. You're the Green Goblin. That's what everyone's calling you, because that's what's been in the paper since Harry was first spotted in the suit. That's what reporters call them, civilians, the internet, them. So Harry's like, they don't get to pick my code name. I pick my code name. But when Peter asked him like, okay, so what's your code name? Harry's just like, well, I kind of like Green Goblin, because to keep it a buck, he really ain't thought of nothing else himself. But following this, the two of them, they get right to it, crashing their way in to go after Fisk, after waiting for him to make his way up and for the guards to make their rounds. But when the two of them crash their way through the glass, Wilson Fisk, he isn't the least bit bothered. In fact, he even goes as far as to let them know that he was expecting them, because every camera in a 3-block radius feeds into this building. So really he was just up here waiting on them. So Fisk tells them, now that you're here, what do you want? So Harry gets right to it and he tells him, I know that you answered to someone, that all this goes much deeper than it appears, and we're here to find that out. And that in itself has Fisk asking, how did you learn something like that? So Harry tells him, your assassin told me, which is something that Peter didn't know anything about, because after Peter helped Harry stop Bullseye, Harry just put Bullseye on the drone and he sent him off. And when Peter tried to ask what he was going to do with him, Harry changed the subject. But as we know, this really just led to Bullseye's painful interrogation, where at the time Harry discovered that Bullseye had embedded exoskeleton enhancements under his skin that gave him his abilities, which is a topic that we'll revisit shortly. But also at the time, Bullseye ended up giving up his connection to Captain Britain, in addition to who knows what other information. But this is how we know that Harry has a general understanding of what's going on. And even though Harry doesn't know that it's Captain Britain specifically, he knows that Bullseye and Fisk answer to him, and this person is a part of a system that manipulates things behind the scenes. And Peter knows there's some kind of group out there pulling the strings, but aside from what he heard from Bullseye and what Harry told him, Peter just thinks they're taking down some mobsters. And really, neither of these two, Peter or Harry, neither of them know how deep the rabbit hole really is. But after Harry tells Fisk they're here to find out the truth, Fisk pulls out a remote and he hits a button, which causes Peter's spider sense to go off because it activates 4 walls to come down, trapping them inside. And when I saw this, I couldn't help but to think of, I got you for 3 minutes, because it's practically the same energy. And as soon as this happens, Kingpin throws the minibar at them. And with the way Peter's spider sense is set up, he really only had enough time to tell Harry to look out as he ducked out of the way. So I can only imagine if my theory is correct and these two become enemies in the future, this moment will probably be a drop in that bucket. But Peter makes sure to tell Fisk, had it not been for the armor, he would have killed him. And it's kind of funny to me how Fisk, he doesn't even try to shy away from it. Like, he just straight up tells him that's the idea. But at the same time, this lets both Peter and Harry know that Fisk is playing for keeps and that he doesn't plan on letting them leave here alive. So Harry takes this as a green light to say, hey, if we're going for lethal attacks, then hey, that's fine by me. So he throws a bomb at the Kingpin, but all it does is burn his shirt off, revealing that he has the same type of enhancements that Harry saw on Bullseye. So Kingpin tells him normally something like that bomb would have hurt, but I've recently got some work done, undergone some self-improvement. And it's crazy to see because when Kingpin tackles and hits Harry, he breaks his helmet with his bare hands. It's insane. So for a moment here, Harry's like, oh God. And the Kingpin tells him, God, don't you understand the world you live in? There's no one listening, no one to save you. You're all alone and it's over. So Peter jumps in to help and he's got to add his quips because he's like, what do you mean alone? I'm over here in the red and blue suit. You about to hurt my feelings. So unfortunately for Peter, the Kingpin gives him the attention that he was craving. And I mean, he gives him plenty of it. And all I could think of here is Kendrick and that pinata, like wop, 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 wop. Because just to be clear, this is the reason why Peter's face is all lumped up. So of course he calls to Harry for help. So Harry calls back his glider to blast a hole in the side of the building so he can grab Peter and the two of them can get up out of there. Because they were not expecting this out of the Kingpin, not in the slightest. But now that they know what he's capable of, it's going to cause them to think twice before backing him into a corner. And on top of that, with Harry seeing these enhancements that Fisk has, he's probably going to be looking into where Fisk and Bullseye got him. But back over with Peter, with him now telling his family how him and the Goblin got their butts handed to him, this just has them asking more questions. Because now Richard and May are asking things like if it was the right thing for Peter to break in and try to beat this guy up, or whether or not Peter's gonna have to fight him again. And really, Peter, he just doesn't have all of these answers right now, because he's still new to this whole superhero thing. But what he does know is that the Kingpin is a very bad man, and somebody's gotta stop him. And now that Peter has these powers, he's gotta figure out how. Because I mean, it's either that, or to just let the Kingpin continue to do what he's doing. But I think the more important question here is what MJ asks next. Because she agrees with Peter to an extent, but after that she asks him, are you safe? Are we safe? So Peter tells her, yes, I believe so. No one knows who isn't a friend. I plan to keep it that way. Which right there is just like, man, the Green Goblin knows. So in the case that you guys fall out, I'm just saying, Jonathan Hickman forbid if anything happens to Gwen Stacy, it's gonna be a problem. Cause like we've seen, the Harry Osborn of this universe, he does not handle loss well. I'm just gonna leave that right there. But Peter tells them that they've got to keep this a secret. They can't tell anyone else. And right here, May tells him, well, why are you looking at me? I kept the secret for 4 whole months. So Richard's like, man, you knew for that long? How come I didn't know? And it almost sounds like it's about to turn into this thing where Richard's like, oh, so you trust May more than you trust me. But it doesn't come down to that. And Peter makes sure to let MJ and Richard know that he wanted to tell him. He just couldn't find the right time or the right words. But he stops himself before he gets into any other excuses, and he apologizes, because there's really no right thing to say. But after this, Peter tells the kids to get to bed so him and MJ can talk, which right there just lets you know how this convo took up a majority of the day. But before Richard goes to his room, he's like, Dad, I got a lot more questions. And Peter knows, so he just tells Richard they'll talk about it tomorrow. But right before Richard goes to his room, he looks back and he says, Dad, please be careful. And when Peter goes back to talk to MJ, he already knows that she wants to see the suit. So he shows it to her, and for a moment they have this kind of playful conversation where it's like now Peter's one of her clients since MJ does branding. So at first it's like she's checking him out and she's like, yeah, okay, well, I approve of the suit. But just after that, she's like, so what am I supposed to call you when you're in costume? Because like we saw earlier, he's in need of a code name. So for a moment here, they continue a bit of the flirtatious consultation, but it isn't long before she looks at him and she says, oh Peter, isn't it obvious? You're Spider-Man, which now in this universe, Earth 6160, this is how he got the name. And I can't say it enough, but the way that all this has come together for this new Ultimate Spider-Man, it just feels organic and well paced, which is more than what I can say for other Spider-Man stories that's been out here lately, because man, it's been rough. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support, and for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/DopeSpill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.